So at the end of that video, I suggested that maybe we could, style some of these lists. Like perhaps I could make this a little bit larger. So I could go to my styling, um, and I haven't styled really anything for my list yet. So that's the one I'm choosing is the numbered list, the ordered list. So I can go ahead and put that in, OL as the element. And then I'm going to go ahead and I don't want to indent, but I will use a font size of 20 for the ordered list. And I'm going to go ahead and go ahead and refresh that, and you could definitely see the difference there. It helps it to stand out a little better, and it is definitely easier to read. You have to remember that sometimes you're styling your website for people who are older, and people who are older have difficulty seeing things that are a small font. Now, you have seen here some examples of different ways to set a size in pixels, and the other one was called EM. So let's talk about that for a second. To allow users to resize text in the browser menu, many developers use EM instead of pixels. The EM size unit is recommended by the committee that establishes these types of things in the W3C. 1 EM is equal to the current font size. The default text size in browsers is 16 pixels. Oh, so I was wrong about that. So the default size of 1 EM is 16 pixels. The size can be calculated from pixels to EM using this formula. I'm going to actually take that piece of information. I'm going to copy that and put that in our document under here, just so we have that piece of information, because that's something I would easily forget. So you can always specify your size in this EM if you choose. I find most kids stay away from that because it involves a calculation. You can also use a combination of percent and EM within your styling. It's no big deal. Now, if you need to bold text, you can do something called font weight to bold. And that's definitely an appropriate thing to do sometimes. Um, we do use headings. Headings are automatically bolded by nature. But let's say you wanted to make um, bold a paragraph. You could do something like that. Or how about we bold a list, because we haven't done that yet. So let's do a Control C, and let's style our unordered list, our bulleted list. So let's say UL, just so that you could see that. Oops. We type UL in a bracket and another bracket, and then we're going to say the font weight, and we're going to say bold. So we're going to save that. And so now if I look at my home page, remember I have a bulleted list right here. So now we should see that bolded. And that's how that works. We could always go back to our ordered list and also make that bold. We can just keep copying and pasting things as long as we have the element identified. So OL, so let's go ahead and copy that and paste that in. Okay, so I definitely want you to see changes. Now, I'm sure you noticed that as soon as I changed this numbered list, this one also bolded as well. We're going to learn next week how we can identify this numbered list with an ID or a class name, and then we'll have the ability to choose, for example, I only want this list to be bolded and a certain size, and leave this one alone. That gets to be a little complicated, so let's just keep on working with font. And I think I'm getting to the point where I'm pretty happy with, your little exploration of fonts. Here are all the font properties. So I think that's a good place for us to stop with our font discussion. So now what I want to do is I want to go to my web host. And I want to show you I don't have my link saved, so I'm sorry if this is going to take me a minute. So I'm going to click on my website and I will link it to the page. And this is not the one I wanted. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to go back. I'm going to sign out. I'm going to log in with Google. So I have 2 different accounts that I have going. Okay. That's not it. Okay, sorry about that. I'm back. So I wanted to just kind of have you take a look at this real fast. You know, this is our ultimate goal, to create something that looks like this. And I can tell you for a fact that this font that I'm using is not a font that's available for you to use readily. Instead, what we're going to need to do is download a font. So to download a font, I'm going to have to teach you a few things that are a little more advanced. And one of which is to set up some code using this font face command and this @ symbol, where we're actually going to have to download a font file and put it in our directory. So that's the direction I want us to head now. So when we're in CSS, and I'm going to copy this link and I'm going to paste it in my document so that if you ever want to go to my digital portfolio, it'll be up there. All right, so that was what I wanted to do. So I'm actually going to go back to CSS to kind of give you an introduction and then finish up in a different video. So we're going to go under Advanced Feature and we go under Web Fonts. So let me find that in here. And here it is right here. So we're using something called the font face rule. Web fonts allow web designers to use fonts that are not installed on the user's computer or that come with the browser. When you have font or bought the font you wish to use, just include the font file on your web server, or in our case, in our directory, and it will automatically download to the user when needed. Your own fonts are defined within the CSS font face rule. So in a second, I'm going to show you a place to go get fonts, and it's really kind of fun. There are different font formats. So this is the file that you're going to be looking for. And to be quite honest with you, mostly I just stick to these TTF fonts, these TrueType fonts. Those seem to work pretty good. TrueType is a font standard developed in the late 80s by Apple and Microsoft, is the most common font format for both of those systems. So at the end of the day, that's why I think you're safest with that type of font. OTF is basically registered by Microsoft, and then there are some other ones. And for the most part, I think you could just go with that. If I scroll down, you can see that what font formats are supported and what are not. So for the most part, at the end of the day, if you stick to TTF or even OTF, they will be used across all the different browser families. But if you start getting into these different font formats, you will have a problem if you try to use, for example, SVG in Firefox. It won't exactly work correctly. So that's how you interpret that. That's how you interpret that table.